Hello, hello. I'm so happy today to have Sven Seevers, the co-founder and CTO of Super 7 with their brand Repaq. I'm especially happy, Sven, to have you today. And as we were speaking before we started recording, uh, flexible packaging is such a huge issue. And I don't think we talk about it enough because the materials, as soon as you make them multi-layer, they become so much more complex. And hence, as far as we know, it's going to take over 100,000 years for a simple, flexible packaging to go away. So the work you guys are doing at Super 7 is super exciting. I'm so looking forward to learning from you about all that you're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and to have this conversation. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Ved. Also, good morning in your in your time zone. So I really appreciate your invitation. So it's a pleasure for me to be here and to answer you some questions and give you some more information about our business model and our products. So I'm really excited about this date here, and looking forward to your questions you have, and hopefully it's going to be that you have a little bit more learned a bit more about our business model and what we do and what we did in the last 5 years. Thanks.
Super. And we're going to start with Sven, the person. So you've been, we tried to do some research on the people we have on the show, but there wasn't much we could find. So tell us more about your growing up. I know that you're based near Hamburg in Germany. But tell us more about your childhood, where you grew up, and if there were any early influences that shaped your life and what you do today.
I start with I was born really also in Hamburg, so I'm origin from Hamburg. I left Hamburg for some time, but I just grew up here in quite normal conditions, I would say. So we are the whole family, the whole males in our family are technicians. So maybe that makes also a kind of difference that you have it in your blood a little bit, that you would really take care about these technical processes and looking forward to improve some things, to learn some things, to analyze some things. So my childhood and my father, my uncle, my brother, my cousins, they are all engineers. So, but me, I'm not. I just have another profession. I learned it. And after I finished my school, I made an apprenticeship as a joiner. I think it's a joiner, that's the right word. So building up furniture industrially. So this is what I did the first 10 years of my professional life, I would say. And then I reached a master grade in this profession and was really fine with that. And I worked for the furniture industry in Germany for 2 years. And then I had the chance to study. And I catched this chance and started to study industrial design in Germany for 5 years. And I finished it in 2005. So it's a long time ago. And I said to myself, okay, what can I do with these both professions? And then I started to make my own business, but a small one, and not with these kind of requirements and imaginations and visions we have now, but a small business. I ran it for 3 years. So I built it up a lot of things and make concepts for investment goods and for every kind of product. So it was my profession. And also working with wood was in my blood, so I never left to work with cellulose or with wood. So, and after being 10 years, so it's a long time. I'm not a student anymore. So as you see, after 10 years of being employed and made my self business, I stopped and said to myself, okay, now it's time to have a review of what I have done, and maybe I can improve myself and also my profession and also the sense of my profession, what I'm doing, in thinking what is going to be next. And it was really an initiation that it was not by accident, but it's also just came the time that I listened to a guy called Professor Braungart. He is the founder of Cradle to Cradle and the IPEA Institute in Hamburg. And I listened to him. He was, I think it was in Berlin at TEDx at the conference. And I listened to him. He's a chemist. And I'm an industrial designer and joiner and product developer, I would say. And he said so many right things that I immediately thought about, I have to stop my profession immediately and have to think about what's coming next. And he was one of the initiatives I've had to change the thing, how we see products and how we develop products and what kind of responsibility you have to have. And as a product developer, to put things on the market and make it available for the mankind. So, and from this point of time, I really appreciated this TEDx session. It was just 1 hour, but it opened my mind. And I said, okay, I have to change the things and I have to change my whole action about putting and developing things and put it on the market. And I said, the circular economy is the perfect thing to do so. So you have to make up your mind about where the materials are coming from. And you also have to make up your mind about what's going to be the end of life scenario. And in between, there are a lot of steps where you can improve things and adjust details to make it good. And 2016, I quitted my job, my good paid job, because I felt that I have to stop. Was a kind of also a kind of pain to leave the comfort zone, I would say. But it was the time I felt it so deeply. And then I started in 2017 this business here. I found it with two, friends, I would say. One is my friend from the studies, and the second is my wife. So a lot of risky things included in this constellation, but I thought I can never do it alone. I have really good capabilities, but I cannot run a business. What I have in my mind as a standalone version, I would say, I have to initiate a cooperation with these two guys. I know them for 20 years, and I know what they can do. I know what I can do. So we founded our company, Super 7, in 2017, March, and said, okay, we want to make products better. This was the basic idea of this business model. And we thought about where we can start, where we can put a start on it, and said, okay, what is one of our most important problems and global problems we have, invisible problems we have, and we have to tackle? And this was packaging. So I said, okay, we developed things for years now, but we are not really specialists in packaging. I did it before, but not so intensively. And the flexible packaging was just the start, and we said, okay, it's not really a big thing. Packaging seems to be rarely very simple. The processes are simple, so it's just printing and whatever. So, but after 2 years of business, we learned a lot and said, okay, it could be that this task will occupy us for the rest of our life. So this, because then we really found out what really, when you go into details with these daily things we have, when we buy chips or chocolates or whatever, these small little packagings, what does it make to make out of some materials you have a functional packaging? This is really, really difficult. You have to fulfill a lot of requirements. And then we started and said, okay, the first business plan we had, and we went to the bank and said, give us money for this business idea. When you read it right now, it is ridiculous. And it's really funny also. The first thing is that we said, okay, we want to substitute these bags you get when you go to the retail shop and get all these little plastic bags. But after 2 years of doing this business or trying to find the right area in this business, we stopped all the things and we said these really simple things like putting a t-shirt in a plastic bag or putting some veggies in a plastic bag. This could also be paper. And this is not where we need some films or some other. It's not. I don't want to call it plastic. Plastic is just a word. It's not defined. So I would say of these kind of polymers, you can really substitute a polyethylene or polypropylene material. And then we said, okay, we have to specialize because the range is too wide, and we can be copied by anyone when it's too simple. And then we started to specialize in food packaging, and said, okay, when there is really a problem with the packaging, you mentioned it, Ved, already, then it's the multilayer packaging you have with all the additives, with all these layers and barriers and whatever's in there, metallization and printing and all the things. And at the end, you cannot recycle it anymore, or it's waste. And we do not want to produce any waste. We are the only species on Earth producing waste. So, and it was the main thing. So the aim was then to produce and to develop and produce food packaging that substitutes this multi-layer packaging and gives them one character for the waste management. And the only character which is really good and does not turn this packaging material into waste is to put it in the circle. And circle means for us not to try to make plastic out of plastic. That is not it's not going to work. We think we have to look at the nature. And the nature gives us the hint how we can do that. And when you not just copy the nature or try to copy, when you understand that, then you can close the circle. And this is what we did then at the end. We said, okay, when the vision is, when all these small plastic packagings we use for chips, for chocolate, for pasta, for thousands of things in our daily life, when we turn that into compostable packaging which composts in nature, and then also industrial plants, of course, but in nature that is really important because it's like an insurance that when anything's going wrong, we do not have a problem for, as you said, hundreds or thousands of years. So it's digested by microorganisms. And this is the thing. We just also had a look then in the earth, and we have a fantastic fabric and fantastic production plant in the earth, in the soil. There are trillions, and I cannot count the amount of microorganisms or helpers or workers or what do you say. They are able to digest all the things. And without leaving anything that is toxic or whatever, you just have to understand what they prefer to eat. And in every case, it is like we also, as humans, prefer, when we have the chance, we prefer sugar or sugar derivatives. So, and then we come to cellulose. The cellulose is one of the oldest, and also it's the most amount of polymers is cellulose, as you know. And the cellulose gives us an idea for more than 100 years right now what can made out of cellulose. So the materials we use are not really these high-tech super materials. The materials we use were invented also 100 years ago. And the cellulose as a film and as a flexible packaging material was invented in 1908 from a guy from Switzerland. And he started to separate the lignin of the cellulose and and made films out of that. So we transform these really old materials into a new context, and 2022 is a new context regarding to 1908. So our work is to research, to monitor, to source good materials, to combine them, inks, adhesives, films, paper, all the things that makes flexible packaging work, to a functional packaging. And this is really, really a challenge. So when you have a cellulose film, you have a cellulose film, but you have no clue what to do with that. So and this is our thing. We want to find out what is the capability of the cellulose in the sector of food packaging. And this is what we make now seriously for 3 years right now, these high barrier, multi-layer food packaging. We substituted piece by piece and branch by branch. So we started with a toothbrush and some nuts. And then we got into the deep and said, okay, it's also good for cheese and it's also good for fresh veggies and for fresh fruits. And so it's now our task is now to look at all the food sectors we have, to look into the details and try to substitute the existing material made from fossil resources and not recyclable anymore. And one of the worst ideas of the mankind was to start to burn oil and gas and coal. And we have to stop that. It's not a rocket science. We have to stop that. It's not discussable, I think. So we all know that that's going to have an end. So we have to find out ways where we have to source materials growing on the earth and not coming from under the earth. Otherwise, we never get a balance, and we invent also this what nature gives us to store the carbon dioxide on the carbon in the earth. This makes us that we can breathe here and all the organisms can live here. When we reverse this process, there is one day that the atmosphere is not going to work for us anymore. And it's clear that we do it right now. So the thing is, when we talk about circular economy and we just have a small little thing with the flexible packaging, we have to act and we have to do it right now. And this is what we do. We have a vision, of course, and we know where to go, but we have existing solutions which works. So all the materials we are coming and we're putting on the market are, before we put them on the market, are exercised. They are tested from toxicity, from heavy metals, disintegration tests, ecotoxicity tests, all the things that makes it, I would say, biocompatible for nature. And as less toxic elements as today possible put in the nature. So these are the basic things we have. We don't take care about if it's going to be in the yellow bin or in the black bin or whatever. So our responsibility is to put good products on the market. And when we have this kind of method or systematic, we can be sure that we fulfill the highest ecological standards worldwide with that what we do.
Super.
So now, 5 years after we founded the company, we are really specialists because it is really a lot of work and intense work to make it market ready with these requirements on this level we have. Today it's when we talk about history, we reached a point where we are really specialists. We source in Europe, we work in Europe. This is our status right now, but the business model and the way how circular economy and all the technology behind that, I think we know them. Also, how compost will be better, how we can source the materials better, and in between the processings, we understand all this thing that makes a circle closed. The loop is closed then. So we start here in Germany because we are Germans. This is for sure the best thing, but the system and the model can be exported in every country in the world with the existing infrastructure of machines. So it's also really important. So we continue this old economy into 2022, and that means we have the machines and we have all these things. And when we want to use them, we cannot throw it away and make new machines that it's not possible, and it's also not really smart and clever. We use all the infrastructure we have, and that's also the best way. We have these steel machines, these really big ones, bigger than a house, for printing on flexible materials, and we want to use it. We have to change some things and modify some things, and also the materials are really more sensitive than other things, so we have to make a kind of sensitivity for the materials in the old economy, but we did it, and also we think when we have really this proof of concept in Germany and Europe, we can import it, we can export it all over the world, so it works also best for the countries which do not have these infrastructure of waste management we have. In Germany, every Friday, there comes a man with a orange suit and gets the bins and put it away. And you think everything is fine with that. But there are really a lot of countries and they do not have this infrastructure. And when they are really want to change and want to preserve their nature all around, and their ocean and their soil and whatever it is, it's good for them to use these kind of flexible materials as a start for a circular economy. And then it's also, maybe by accident, it's going to be flew in the bushes or whatever, these small little pieces, but afterwards it's really good that it harms not the environment for such a long time and makes no microplastics. The reason why this is really a big difference is to polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrol, polyamide, everything that we substitute right now, is that the character of the change, the carbon hydrogen chains are a little bit different. And that makes it work for nature. This is not a question of if polyethylene is good or not good. It's not the question, it's a question, how can we imitate nature? And the closer we are on natural polymers, like you have inside and me have inside, and everything is built of, the better it is for us. And I think it's also a lot of work to do for us also, but we reach a status that we can provide ready packaging which fulfills these high requirements right now to our customers all over Europe. And it's also that I can tell you, I think it's going to be for the next 20 years minimum to improve all the things we started right now. So it's more than just one generation which has to work on this topic. So it's also kind of sustainable thinking, not in 4-year periods. We have to stop that also immediately. We have to think in generations, like we did also in the past. So, and that makes some things more sustainable. So this is what I can tell you about the history and the status we reach right now.
Thank you, Sven. That was definitely a very detailed, description of what you're doing, and it brought up a lot of thoughts and ideas as you were speaking. And thankfully, I've taken a lot of notes, so you're going to get a lot more questions from me. But interestingly, our lives have coincided in a very interesting way. You got influenced by Professor Braungart, and I got influenced also by Professor Braungart and Bill McDonough. So I don't know if you've seen our podcast, but my first guest on the podcast is Bill McDonough, who was the partner for Professor Braungart, and they together developed Cradle to Cradle for a long time. And interestingly, I was talking to Bill last evening, and we were discussing about flexible packaging last evening on something that we were jointly developing for Unilever and Mars. But I'm sure we will talk about it a little more on this show and maybe afterwards about this project. But interesting how lives collide. And even me, I would say I did not have the luxury of growing up in Germany where all the trash wasn't in your face. I grew up in India, and that meant that the trash was right there. The orange man wasn't coming every Friday, and hence, the trash was there. And one of the, like you, a big shift happened to me by reading Cradle to Cradle and also seeing all this trash. And most of it, you were right, was flexible packaging. But I'm going to take a step back a little bit because it's very interesting to see how you one of your best friends and your wife have come together. And I want to know more about that, how that happened, why did they agree to work with you, and how do you divide roles, and what do each one of you do? And I also know that Hans was your best man at your wedding as well. So, this is a really close relationship. So, before we jump more into packaging, a little more about how this partnership works and how did
Mhm.
you guys manage to come together and you managed to convince them to be your partners?
Yeah, yeah. This is also a kind of story. I just have to convince them and not to force them, I would say. I will have to, yeah, to convince them that it's a good idea to quit their jobs and work with me. So the first thing and idea was, okay, I have a good idea. I think it's going to work because I am experienced enough to start that. I know a lot of technology and processes and all the things, about materials and all the things, but I am just one guy. And the vision was not to make small business. The vision was a little bit bigger because I immediately understood what that's going to be the consequence and how disruptive is this kind of business model. And then I started to, first was my wife. And she said, okay, that is really risky. And I said, yes, I know, but we are now together for 20 years. And I think we know each other very good and can also estimate if it's going to be good or not. And we can also stop that. It's not the question. And then I started to get in contact with Hannes, and he is now also living in Berlin. And said, okay, Hannes, I have a good business idea. And he said, I just tell me, I listen. And he said immediately, I want to be part of that. I just asked him to build up the brand Repaq graphically and make all the corporate identity for this brand. And he said, no, Sven, I want to be part of that. So by my wife's side was a little bit hard to convince her, but at the end it was clear that starting a new business means also to have a good chance to, yeah, I think it's going to be good to say that it is senseful work, with a real deep purpose, which is really inside us to do good things and not to waste your time with bullshit jobs. And my wife, she said, thought about that for 1 week, and afterwards she said, okay, I stopped my job. I quit my job too. My family also was a little bit, never before that anyone started a kind of business like this in my family. So they were all employed people mostly, but also in leading positions. So they said, okay, we support you anyway. We don't know what's going to be because the business model is quite new. Nobody knew and nobody gave us a little bit of kind of forecasts. Nobody knew anything about that. But my family and also Katja and Hannes, they supported me. And also the bank was convinced by our business idea. So then we started in our flat, in our apartment where we lived. We started there. And it was really clear who has what kind of rule in this company. Because after our studies, we studied the same course, but afterwards we got in totally different directions. So I was the guy who makes ideas to going to be alive in a product. This is what I did for 15 years then afterwards. So a good idea means not that you get a good product at the end. So I just started all the development process. My wife, she was really good in wholesaling with internationally, and was really good in dealing with other countries and also making all this financial part. And then she became CEO. And Hannes is really good in communication and brand building and so on. He gets this kind of task, and he becomes the CMO, so it's marketing chef. That's his, and me, I'm the technical guy. I now have the role of CTO, so I'm responsible technically. So it was not really hard to find the right rules, and it's still like this. It's still like this, that we have our responsibilities in this field, and it works very well. So we feel really good in that, and without the support of these guys, the family and my two friends, or my wife and my friend, it never would have been possible. It is also clear to me, so I'm really thankful for that kind of thing. But it's also my work to convince people and to motivate people and to put them the right story into their brain, that they feel the enthusiasm about that and the sense about that. So, and it's going to be, the more we work in this topic, the better we get, and the more does it make sense to do so. So it's not going to be that we stop it and said, "Oh, it's really annoying." It's the opposite side, and the more we know about that, the better it is what we do. So this is the story of convincing these guys and supporting me in the business idea.
No, and it's amazing how your skills come together, and each of you being able to see that in each other. So of course you could have taken many paths. I understand that your idea was that how do I solve flexible packaging, but we can do it in many ways. Why was it cellulose, and how did that get? There's so many bioplastics today. There is PLA and there is other starch-based substrates. I'm sure you may have looked at many of these. And what was it that convinced you, apart from your background being in cellulose, what was it that convinced you that this is the right substrate to use and to go for in terms of flexible packaging?
Yeah, this is a really good question, because there's also a story behind that, also a kind of moment where it whatever it means. So I just worked in a design agency for 10 years, and we started a packaging project for a customer. And it was my task then to find the right materials for their applications, and what suits to their machines and what suits to their marketing, whatever it makes. And I started the research. And then I just found a guy who sells cellulose film. And it was like everything. I'm really a curious person, and then I started to research a little bit more, and cellulose film here, cellulose film there. In Germany it's called Zellglas. So this is really the old thing, and I found out that it was invented in 1908, and there was an existing industry in Germany with these kind of materials before the Second World War. And I just get a book from 1932. I just still have it, and it describes the whole processing, the whole thing. It was original samples inside from 1932, and they were still there. So that was really a point where I said, okay, I have to start, and I really want to do that to make me more familiar with this kind of material. What can I do with that? Of course, in the project, because it is also an expensive material, it is expensive as a raw material. When you buy it per kilograms, it's really expensive. So for this project, for this packaging project, it was go away, because the customer said it's too expensive, we cannot afford it, we want to do that. But then I started really, and I just invited the guy who offered this cellulose film in the internet, with a big company behind it, of course, and it's a Japanese company. And then he came to our office, and I just had a talk for an hour, and he told me about these benefits and also the risk and the chances, everything about this material. And then I started to make up my mind, what is going to be with that, and also what can I do with that, what kind of specification it is, what kind of properties it has. And so I started it nearby. Beside my just normal job, I just had hold this in my hand and said, okay, this is a kind of transparent film, and what can I do with that? And then I started to work with that in my free time, I would say. So I think it's 15 years ago, and the guy, I know him today so the relationship still lasts. We buy the cellulose film from his company, but you are right, the cellulose film is just one of the materials we have. And was the first one is in every time it's the central part of our packaging is cellulose film, because it has really good properties we can use, but it's also restricted in what you can do with that. So, and then we started, of course, to add to the packaging. We first did it for toothbrushes and for small parts and whatever. So we packed it and it was good. But we also learned a lot about the possibilities with this kind of material. And we came also to some kind of frame and said, okay, when we do it more than in this or more in this direction, we cannot use it anymore. We can use another material or we can add it and combine it. So, and then we started to build up a kind of modular system. And the basic materials, you mentioned it already, that was polymers made from starch, sugar, oils, and acids. And you already mentioned this is PBS, PBAT, PHA, PHB, whatever it makes. And we found the right materials and also inks and adhesives with the same level of ecological standards. So that was really a challenge. And then we started to build up a kind of system that we have. So, okay, we had used the cellulose in combination with this kind of polymer, and that makes this packaging. We combine it in another way and get a little bit thicker here and a little bit thinner there, and then we can make this packaging. So now we have a kind of modular system where we combine the materials in the thickness and also in the polymer type, which fits to the food. So this is a kind of system we invented, I would say. But after 5 years, we do not use cellulose as a monofilm for everything. It's not possible. And I choose cellulose because it was the only material which is not which has no synthetic character like PLA and PBAT. It is a regenerated cellulose. It means you just separate the lignin of the cellulose from wood, and then you have a material where you can work it. You do not have to put a lot of things in there and put it together and whatever. So, and it was also from the early times, from today, I really like to work with these films because the microorganisms love cellulose. It's a multi-sugar, I would say. It's called polysaccharid. So they love it. They eat it in a time. And we of course started to experiment with that and to put it in the fridge and put it in a deep freezer, make it hot, seal it, do not seal it, try to form it with thermo forming tools and whatever. And so we made us familiar with this material and checked out what we can do with that. And we also started to see what the earth will do when you put it in the soil. What is then going to be? What is going to happen? This is really interesting. You say, okay, we know microorganisms are a little bit lazy in the winter, and they love the summer, and they love humidity, and they love temperature. So, and you have to have not the right soil. You just put it in the soil where you are. And every time you have the chance to meet microorganisms, thousands, millions, and billions of them are everywhere. Also, I think I have 4 kilos of microorganisms in my body. So that means they are part of us, and they are part of the soil. But you cannot see that. You cannot smell it. You cannot see that. That makes it a little bit spooky for the people, but they are there. And then we grabbed it into soil and start to look what is going to be happening. And I think it was 4 years ago we started a kind of experiment because it was a really hot summer here in Germany. In Germany, hot summer means it's more than 35 degrees. That is really hot also for us. Maybe not in California, but here. And then the time was smaller and smaller. So after the summer, we just said, okay, the microorganisms are able to eat and to digest this material within 20 days. And it is gone. It's nothing there anymore. Just the carbon, which is going to be in the soil again. Because the microorganisms did a good job. And the worms and whatever there is in this fantastic production plant under Earth. And as we said, as we noticed that, we said, okay, this is really a circular economy topic. So we can close the loop with that, all the experience. We have not this knowledge over decades, but we have enough experience and enough imagination in our mind and can make a vision out of it that we can close the loop for these kind of materials in using the compostable process, which is going to be every year, every day. You can see that. You can follow in. It doesn't matter if it's a small animal which is dead or if it's a leaf coming from the trees or whatever. It doesn't matter. These really tough guys, they digest everything. But it has to be organic and it has to be close in their structure as we know it from our bodies and from the plants and from all the things. And then we start to close the loop. And now we are so good in that we even improve the composting technology. That we are able to do that because we know so many things about that we can say, okay, we are not just inventors and developers of flexible packaging. We can also improve a whole system and a whole technology which makes sense to do. Maybe not only with packaging, also with the organic waste you have, and even with everything you have which is organic. And this is really a chance. And last year we understood how big that could be. You see in the background, we make us a lot of notes there. And we said, okay, so we are not only making flexible packaging, we are inventors of a whole system that works for all over the world with not so many efforts. You don't have to build these big production plants for sorting out and for washing and for whatever, detecting all the things. You can just use the nature. You can control that. You can control the circumstances. You can control the humidity. You can control the amount of microorganisms. Then you can control the temperature. This is what we can do as human beings. And this makes us that we can also control the process. We can put a little bit speed on that and we can slow it up. This is on us. But now I think we are in a good way. Even with the support of the European Union, yesterday they decided to put compostability and to mention it and to think that it's going to be good when you do not have this mechanical recycling as a standalone solution. You have to put some other things and to install some other things which makes a circular economy and compostability with all the infrastructure which already exists. In Germany, we have over 200 of these plants here. And it's just a small country. It's just, I think California is bigger than Germany. We have 200 production plants for compostability here. And we just have to use them and to improve the technique of composting. And then we have a really big step. And yesterday, the European Union not stopped the bioplastics, I will say, or the materials. They supported us. And it is a good sign from the authorities and from the governments that they know what the benefits are and that they support us. 5 years ago, it was not clear what's going to be. In what direction does it work? And the Germans and the European guys, they really believe in recycling and in mechanical recycling as we do it right now. Putting all into bin, sorting it out, sorting it type-wise, and then try to make new plastics out of it. yes, it is one way. But as you know, not just one way is the right way. You have to diverse the ways also and the types of how to recycle things and how to close the loop. And this is just an addition we have. We do not want to enter this system. It's good for some materials, for paper, for glass, for some metals. It's really good and it works very well. But for these flexible packaging, it does not work. So, and it's not just a stupid idea. After 30 years of practicing it, we have numbers. And when you put the numbers on the table, you have to think about some new solutions. So, and this is what we did.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Again, lots of interesting thoughts, and I'm going to focus on both the technology and the cost side a little more. So just so that you know, it's very interesting what you mentioned in the end. In India, there is this whole informal sector of rack pickers that basically takes all the garbage and sorts it out, and there is an economic value. So of course, the first thing they look for is PET bottles, because that is very easily. I don't even call it recyclable, and you know Professor Braungart, so I call it downcycling. There is no such thing as recycling. It's always down, down, down till it cannot be downcycled anymore. So at least that is more easily downcycled into fibers or whatever. So that goes away. Then there is the single layer polyfilms of some kind that will be taken away. Nobody ever takes flexible packaging. It's all going to stay there because there is no economic value. Even for burning, it's difficult. So there's metals and there is all sorts of things. So rack pickers don't get any value out of it, and hence they do not pick up flexible packaging. And that's the most, I would say, most amazingly engineered, but also the most difficult product to have. And that leads me to two sides, and I want to learn from you a little more about both these things. So, of course, I know Futamura really well. I know their predecessors in England really well. I'm come from the cellulose space, know cellulosic films very well. But yes, exactly what you mentioned. The one challenge is the cost, because at least in my exploration, it ends up being almost at least, and I'm talking maybe 5 years back, but at least 5x of the cost of a polyfilm. So that's one of the challenges. And of course, then there is two properties which we look for flexible packaging, mainly the WVTR and OTR, or the moisture barrier and the air barrier. Flexible films from cellulose can have a decent oxygen barrier, but maybe the water vapor barrier is a challenge. So I want to learn from you two things. One is, how do you think of the cost and work with that? And I'm sure there are some brands who are ready, but when you look at, you're also looking at scale, and that becomes a challenge probably when you look at the cost. And the second part is the technology. How do you do shelf life? I know from your website that there was decent shelf life in your products. So shelf life is one challenge. And the second challenge is that, like they want a WVTR number of under 1 sometimes. And that in an organic product that you are doing, I'm sure has been a challenge, but you seem to have cracked it. So would love to learn from you more about how do you tackle cost and how do you tackle technology?
It's a pleasure for me also to answer these questions. You are right that the price is always a thing when you live in a system like we do, that price and costs and effectivity and maximum of wins are on the top of the priority list, I would say. We start also to compare it with other branches. So, and in Germany, we eat a lot of bread, and we have a kind of bread index there also. So that means when you want to have a good bread with good ingredients, which took the time to grow, and then you have to pay 3 times more than for just a normal one, which is coming from the industry, because the ingredients have not this quality, and they took not the time to make it good and good for the humans, and they put a lot of additives in there to optimize it for the industry and not for the people. And it's the same in the packaging sector. Of course, there is a kind of border for this relation of price and what you can get for it, and also the relation to what can be the part of the packaging. So this is also really a thing. So when we talk about products, good food products, and they have a good price because they have a good quality, then also a good packaging fits to that. When you have a really cheap product, cheap food is, then you are right. Then the relation is not so good anymore, and mostly it will be stopped by the customer immediately. And we talk about from 3 to 6% of the price you get in the retail shop from your product can be spent for the packaging. This is also, and when you come that is it more than 6%, then you have to talk, of course. And then you have these little things that you say, okay, maybe it's worth it, maybe not. We have to compare it with the value of the product itself. So, and that separates the market. Good food products, organic, fair trade, whatever it is, that they for sure also choose a packaging with the same quality. Quality means the quality itself in the raw materials and also in the consequences of the material. So it would be really another thing when you have to pay for the damage you make, but it's not the case right now. So, but you're right. The costs are, of course, a thing. But when you have, and the target customers are not these. Firstly, not these really big companies. They really take care about everything and wait until anything will be on the market or is free for the market. So they wait for the freedom to operate. The smaller companies are the pioneers. This is really, it's like this. And they are really taking the risk. And you have to take the risk to have innovation. Otherwise, no chance. So it's always the same that when you do not take the risk for yourself, maybe also for your job or whatever, when you do not take that and wants to have innovative product, it does not fit. You cannot be 100% sure and make innovations. So that is really I do not know any project which is like this. So it's our daily business also to fail. This is part of this business we have when you have a disruptive business model like we have and test new things and figure some things out. It's always that you have to be aware that you also have to stop or that you fail with this, what you want to have as a result. And that makes also taking these risks is one of the parts. And our customers are mostly also like this. When they feel it, that it's going to be work with these more expensive packaging, I would say, then it's a basic decision for a company culture and not just a decision. When you change from the polyolefin packaging to compostable packaging, it's a really big step also. You do not do it every 2 months because you have a good idea. Sometimes this process from the start, from the first talk to the ready product costs 2 years. That could be maybe even longer. Sometimes also not so long, and you have to take the risk that after 1 year of really putting efforts on that, you have no result. And when you are aware of that, it's then part of the game. When you are not aware of this, then you can make the basic decision to go for the risk or to just follow the law and to fulfill it, and then you have no trouble anymore. But you are not innovative. So, and this is also the first question we ask our customer when we talk to them is, what is the reason you contact us? And what is the reason? It's a strategic decision for your company culture or for your future. When you say yes, then welcome to the pioneers side. When you say no, we have to talk about, because it always means that you take some of the risks. We cannot take everything. So, and then is also when you are going to interested party and they talk about the price, it's of course a topic every time. It's a topic to talk about prices. We just calculated it's just also not exact for every product, but when you give the product a better quality and also good food for communication and to talk about what you're doing good, and even not with the product, also with the packaging, you have a price increase at the end for the price in the retail shops of about 3%. And hey, come on, what we are talking about, it's just 3%. Of course, it's just a value which it's middle, but anyway, it's definitely not much higher like this. And when we want to talk about prices and 3% price increase, when we have to discuss about that, you are not our customer. This is, yeah, it's like this. You have to be really also really strict then. So this is about the price we know, and the price is not about that we are earning so much money. The price is about the raw materials. When you buy 1 kilogram of polypropylene, which makes a big amount of packaging, you pay about €2 per kilograms. When you want to buy cellulose film, you pay about €8 per kilograms. So, but it is a fact because it's another material. When you buy a Dacia and when you buy a Mercedes-Benz, you have the same thing. It makes the same. It drives you from A to B, but with the other quality. So it's not really the same, but it's also in some parts the people are really able to spend money. So, but for some things and for the packaging, it was never a topic. Never. Nobody talked about the packaging and the worth of the packaging. It's material. It's material we process, and you buy it with the content. You buy it with the food. So it has a value afterwards. And it is not waste. It has a value. And when you put it back and you have a really precious thing in your hand and you eat the chocolate before, you can say, okay, this is also a material which is worth it to put it in the cycle again. And this is also what we have to learn. All the materials we have and we made for us have a value because there's a lot of efforts in there. And even the packaging and even the smallest little things we have, they have a value for us. And they are not waste. They are nutritions. They are really precious materials for us. And when you talk about this, you can, when you do not have waste in your mind anymore and just talk about the packaging, then it makes sense to put also a good price on that. It has to have a price. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And the people do not think about that. But it's not that we are going to be rich people with that. We use the same machines, we use the same infrastructure, but the raw materials are more expensive. And it doesn't matter what you buy. If you buy PLA or if you buy cellulose film or if you buy inks or if you buy adhesives, it doesn't matter. They are all more expensive. It is like this because this is a niche product. This is not the mainstream market. So maybe in 20 years we can talk again that, and then it changed everything. And I think it's going to be like this. So this is the price discussion and the technology for the high barrier properties. So I know that it's a number, and the first thing also when we want to substitute a polyolefin packaging is give us your numbers. We try to imitate that in the product safety and the shelf life and the speed of the machines and all other properties that they have to have this packaging and what you want to have as a requirement for this packaging. And then we have a really, really big table with all the materials and numbers, and then we have a look, what can we do to substitute this material? And you are right, the water vapor transmission rate and the oxygen transmission rate are two of the significant numbers you have to compare. And cellulose film itself has no barrier. Yeah, it has, but it's not. You cannot. It's not mentionable. So it's less than whatever. So and you know the shelf life, the requirements for the shelf is coming from the retailers. And they say when you put some fruits and veggies here in our shop, it has to be fresh for 10 days. That's the minimum. The maximum is when you have some kind of chocolate or dried foods like beans or all these dried things, rice or whatever you have. You have to make sure that it's going to work for 24 months. This is the maximum. And when we want to substitute the things, we have to fulfill the same requirements. Otherwise, nobody wants to take this material because the requirements are clear. Otherwise, the retailers won't take it and won't buy it. And the barrier technology is a mix of every little thing you can have. So it's also a kind of our business model, not to go into the details, but we are surrounded by really good and experienced institutes. And we have a lot of universities and institutes. They take care about these barriers, the coatings, heat sealability, water vapor, oxygen, nitrogen, modified atmosphere packaging, everything you have to have when you want to put packaging on the market. And we work with 3 Fraunhofer institutes in Germany, and this makes us sure that we find a good solution for these barrier things. The second is, some people really do not believe that, but even metallization in a special way, is allowed to leave it and to hold a standard for garden compostability. Also even in the toxics and also in the heavy metals and whatever it is. And the secret is the amount and the thickness and also the processing. So we are even able to metallize films, and then you have a really good barrier property. We can add it, not in any way, but in some ways. So the barrier technology is building on 3 basics. So the cooperations with the universities and the Fraunhofer institutes. Yesterday I went to a company in South Germany, and we tested a new barrier property which is also formable, that is really amazing. They call it liquid glass, and it's wow, I never saw that before, and it's just on the market now. They invented it 1.5 years ago. It's quite new, and we just tested it yesterday and it was amazing. And it's crystal clear, and the application is like normal, so everything is fine. So now it's going to be that we put it in and implement it in our ways. The second thing is all the metallization, but the people feel that metallization does not work with the soil or with the nature. From a science way, it's not right. Metal is in every body part, in every plant part, and whatever. So, in the middle of your blood, in your red blood, small things you have, it's called ferrum. So, in the middle of the green ones in the tree is magnesium. So, there is all around us is metal. Natrium, magnesium, calcium, all these things are surrounding us, and they are parts of the soil. But the people, when they have this shiny and metallized surface, they do not believe that. So it's a little kind of psychological thing. But we know that it fulfills the requirements, and it's not an idea. It's a requirement that it's worldwide made by accredited institutes. So, and the third part of the barrier, technology is the density of the materials. It sounds a little bit strange, but it is like this. When you have materials, for example, polyethylene, which has a density of 0.984, that you can see it flows on the water, on the surface. We have densities of more than 1. It is 1.24 until 1.4. So that makes it's much more, it has much more density, and that makes the material better for some things, for UV radiation, for some kind of barrier you need. And these 3 things in the modular system we have makes it that we have reached numbers for the water vapor transmission rate less than 0.7 and with a oxygen transmission rate less than 0.02. So that is also good for coffee, for tea, for everything. So that is really amazing. And I think we are one of the few companies which can hold these ecological standards so high and fulfill these hard requirements of the barrier properties you have to ensure the shelf life. So this is what we...
Sorry, that's truly remarkable. I'm just so excited to hear that because I know that it's not easy. And I'm sure you guys have really applied yourself to actually be able to reach, especially the moisture barriers. You know, the air or aroma barriers are still okay with the biofilms, but as soon as I look at moisture, and it's good to hear about the institutes near you, and you can collaborate because that really helps. And you know, there are young minds always working on it. Um, I actually want to learn a little more, and I'm totally with you when you talk about metallization, because you can do nanometallization. Sometimes you don't even see the silver kind of film. You can use alox. You know, you don't even have to use aluminum. You can use aluminum oxide. The challenge that I see there in that side, and I am presuming that you have sort of found a way to tackle it, is more in the conversion, because when I look at metallization, the multiple methods that can be explored are things like transfer metallization, but then you have a polyethylene film and you sort of laminate it and you remove it. Uh, the better way I've found is condensing metallization, but then you need big condensing chambers, and then and I'm totally talking about the conversion and how you kind of how are you looking to tackle it? Now, the challenge I find in condensing metallization is the scale. So, the highest size that I've found so far for condensing metallization is about 30 tons a day. So, and that's a decent size. But considering the size of the challenge and, you also wanting to go to a scale, that's a limitation, in terms of condensing metallization. Are there any other methods? I've looked at spray metallization, for example, but does that work well? It's a challenge when you try and especially you can only do aluminum oxide, but then, that's also a challenge in terms of the evenness of the surface that you create. So in particular, staying and picking your brains on the side of metallization, because I think that's an absolute key, at least for right now, for the water vapor barrier. And how would you go about doing it? What's your ideal method? I'm totally with you in terms of the soil. It is still, even if you don't compost it, you demineralize it, and that's still good for the soil. So soil carries a lot of bauxite, anyways. So just want to pick your brains on the method that you would recommend in order to do it at scale.
Yeah, I think you are totally right. Even the processing and the converting of the raw materials into films and whatever is another kind. So when we talk about PHA, for example, you cannot use the old technology because it's a bioreaction in 4 or 5 steps. So that means that is another kind of process. For the metallization, I think it's not that sometimes we need the scale. We need it just in several places. So we have to spread it in small units and not going to work with one unit that makes metallization for whole Europe. So I think the scale is not to build up these big production plants. The scale is just to decentralize all the methods and put it in small things. So you can act then regionally. You can have small, less waste for transport, for logistics, for whatever. So the idea is also to also not to make one solution, and it never fits. Maybe the metallization in the UK fits for Middle Europe. This, what you said, it's the really technology we use. It's like you described. So, but when we talk about India, Maybe there's a totally other way. Maybe it's also not really necessary to make it shelf life for 24 months. So this is also what we can talk about. It's some kind of a little bit ridiculous that we have to have a chocolate bar, which is 24 months in our what, I don't know what this idea makes, but it's a little bit stupid also. And we think we have to adapt it per market also and the requirements for the market. And even in India, maybe in the north, or the south, and the west, and the east, there are some other infrastructures we have. And this is what we have to do. We have to look at really at the places we act and we work with, and then we have to find the right solution for that. This is not just one way. And I'm sure that a lot of the packagings are overdosed with a barrier, and also the thicknesses. That you have to talk also about. Coffee is a good thing. There are a lot of aromas in there, about 800 different whatever. But does it need a 140 micron PET alu PE? Really? You really need that, or it's just for your own safety? So also some kind of question. So we optimize the material, we reduce the thicknesses how much as we can, and even when it's another kind, then and the people are not used to have a little bit modified packaging, then you have the right thing. But it's not the idea to make big plans and centralize all the things. It's even for the compostability, it's good to have several places, and they are also able also to improve in their environment the system for themselves, and not to have just one system and to put it all over everything. That does not work. That doesn't really not work. So we just try to figure out a system how that works in general, but not in details. So and we know the people also from the cultural side, the people have really other behaviors about food and about the whole daily life, and also that makes also this thing different. I cannot say you have to install the same system as in Germany and India. That does not work. It's not possible. That means that even when we have a niche technology right now and also a niche product, about 0.5% of all the flexible packaging is going the way for compostability. So 99.5% are conventional and polyolefins. I think also when it does come that the amount is going to grow and to get bigger and bigger and bigger, then it does come out it comes automatically that even also the industry scales up and improves their processes for more capability and for more amount per year or whatever. But when we talk about this centralizing of and building up big plans for a lot of people, you have to be sure that this kind of process also works 1,000 kilometers in the north, on the south, in the west, on the east. And it's not the fact. When I drive from Hamburg 1,000 kilometers in the north, it's minus 27 degrees. This system does not work in Sweden, in Lapland. And also not in Sicily, which is 1,000 kilometers in the south. You have to look at really a place for place, and then you have to adapt the technology and the systematic methods you have for improving this kind of circular economy for this flexible packaging. And even a industrial compostable plant looks in India totally another kind, not really totally, but the same microorganisms, I would say, and even not the same microorganisms, I don't know. And the whole thing works in another way. As you said, there are no orange people coming on Friday in India. So you have to find another solution for that. Maybe you have to put some kind of refund for that when you put it back. So I don't know. There are so many possibilities, and this is what we do. We are not afraid about the scale up and that we cannot provide the people with material. I think it's going to work right now. We have a lot of more capacities. Today we have partners all over Europe, about 5 production partners, but there are still a potential of more than another 500 just in Europe. So this is the scale up also. We just have to scale up the market, and it's not done. It's not done yet. So we have a lot of possibilities, even when we talk about metallization or coating or whatever you have to make these films going to be a good food packaging. You have to scale first the market, and we are not at the end. We just start right now. So a lot of things to do to scale up. But you're right, the technology and to provide a steadily and stable stream of material is totally important. It's the most important thing for our customer to make sure that even in 2 years you can supply them with the same quality in the same way. So this is what we have to make sure also. And this is also what we have. We diverse all the productions. So we spread it all over Europe. This is also one of the diversing these things. So when one production plant is not working because of a fluid or whatever you have another one. When you fix just on one point, you never have the chance to work diverse. And this is also in our culture, not just in the way we see these recycling, upcycling, downcycling. So in the when you talk about compostability, it is recycling, real recycling. Even then you have to find diverse ways. Even in the mobility of people, you have to find diverse ways. So, and it's also like this. The technology is. We have to look. When I go to India and want to make business there, I really have to look at the whole thing in detail, to listen to the people, to be really aware what they need and what you can do for them, and then you have to adapt the system. It doesn't change the system, but the details. So this is what we think about this kind of. Maybe a risk to lose the technology or not to provide the people with the right amount of material.
Wunderbar. Because the if you when you and you spoke about this early on, to align with nature, and I think what you've said in the last part is so aligned, because nature is very locally adaptive, right? It is not common, it's not the same across the world. So you're right, we tend to build these huge facilities for economies of scale, but it's a very humanistic industrial tendency. Ideally, it is locally adapted and it is serving the local need. So I totally agree with you, and I hope that that system can evolve. I'm going to stay a little more and maybe probably poke you a little more on the technology side, in terms of there are two aspects. One is, and this is what I was trying to get from you, and then I would love to learn a little more on how do you metallize? First question, to make it very simple, and then how do you do the heat sealing capability? So of course, I presume you're using some bioplastic, but those are two important things that we know are needed when we come to flexible packaging: metallization for moisture barrier, and then heat sealing for basically making sure that the product can run on regular machines, because you are using sort of the same supply chain, which is again really, really impressive, because if you try and disrupt both the product and the supply chain, there's a higher chance of failure. So, stay with the same supply chain, but you change the product, and then the same companies can go to the printers and the packagers, and they can do the same thing. But just maybe in a very, very short, clear way, because I'm also cognizant of time.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What is it that you think is the right way to metallize, and what is it that you think in terms of heat sealing and the bioplastic side?
Yeah, that it is a little bit a shame, but regarding the metallization technology, I just get the result and I have to check the quality. The process itself, I know in general, but anyway, we are not interested in the process then itself, but in the result, and make sure that it's going to fulfill these certification requirements, food contact, whatever you need. It's also I'm responsible for the technology, but I really, even if I want to, I cannot tell you any details about this process because I do not know that. Honestly, I have to say that. At the end, we have to have a totally even applied metallization surface which fulfills the requirements of these barrier properties. When you have just one hole in there, it's gone, or one scratch or whatever. This is the first thing. So I'm sorry not to go into details then. You're right. There are three different ways to close the packaging at the end. When you have a flow packing machine, like just a normal horizontal form film and seal machine, like it is on the whole thing, for chips, for bars, for chocolate, for bread, for everything. You can use it for everything. You have three different kinds. You have ultrasonic welding, you have heat sealability, and you have cold seal lacquering also. These are the three technologies. And it seems to me that the cold seal is the fastest. And speed is one of the most important things for this packaging process. It makes really a difference if you pack 60 bars per minute or 500 bars per minute. Yeah. And we, two of them we can fulfill, so that we have in the inside of the packaging, we have always enough material to melt and to make the heat sealing, or the ultrasonic sealing. Both is possible. I prefer the ultrasonic sealing because it makes a totally clear, small little seam, and it's perfect. And you can adjust it really on detail, on point to your material. The heat sealing is a little bit rough. You know that it's like, and it's going to be faster and faster and faster, and then it's okay. Then you have to make sure that the plastification of the sealing layer on the inside going to start as soon as possible. Not at 30 degrees like cold seal, that we can start at 90 degrees like this. And it's going to be start really fast, because then it's going to be that you can put from the outside the heat, and it's going to be to the inside. That makes the thing, the time not so long, and the heat is coming faster into this material. And we started at 90 degrees about that, and we go to 200 degrees. This is the maximum, I think so. And this range, it's quite normal. But the most important thing is to have. It doesn't matter when you have a good barrier property in the surface. It does not mean that you have a good barrier property in the ceilings. So you have to have enough material to melt. This is the point. So, and then it starts not. A lot of people try to apply some things on paper, which makes it sealable in this way for high barrier property, but it doesn't work, because there's not enough melting material, which plastifies and going to be hardened up when it colds. So, and for us, it's a minimum that we detected of the material we need as a layer on the inside to fulfill these requirements. And I think it starts with about 18 microns. This is the minimum of what we can have. And for the really big machines, it's necessary even to have 550 microns in the inside. So in this range, we can act. But anyway, cold sealing is one of the challenges we have. So as I mentioned, we are not just selling packaging, and we are also know that we need the speed to work with the big companies. They need the speed, so we need the speed. And we can just speed it up when we know what the machines want to have. And we know also all the machine supplies of them, so we know how that works. And we know that in some areas we have to improve this thing. So now we are started half year ago to cooperate with a company and a university to make this application for this speed, the cold seal, home compostable. It's a big challenge, but also, it's not clear if it works, but when it works, we opened another really big field of business we have. So this is how that works. So we know about these things, and we know about how to close the packagings safely. But some of them things we cannot do, and some of the things we maybe can do in the future.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's good to hear all the things that you're working on, and clearly, you have a very clear focus on this multi-layered structures and different sealing properties as well. And that only happens when you get into the details. So I just have taking it towards closure, but I'm still inquisitive about a couple of things which you've done. not more from the technology side, but I would say more from funding and the market side. The Lion's Den is something that you guys were participating in, and I think we have a version called Shark's Tank. It's probably very similar. So tell us a little more about that experience and how that helped the company, get more recognition, scale up, and how did that happen? So we'll love to learn more about that.
So of course, when you start a business model like we do, we need money to speed up, and we need money for these little experiments and the freedom we have in testing and failing and testing and whatever, and having these intellectual property rights and all the things cost a lot of money. The whole contracts, all the things. So you are right. We need a funding. We need some people who, or some companies who supports us with this idea. The first was quite normal. It was the bank. You go to the bank and then you get you get some money from them and you have to pay it back. So, but at the end we said, okay, we need really partners also. We don't need just the money. We need partners. They help support us not with money, and the strategy behind that, business development and so on. And it was the first step that we said, okay, we need these partners, and how much money do we need? Regarding comparable startups, I would say, or young companies, we found it not so much money. So, but we did the best out of it. And it's just that we, when we do not have these development processes all the time, and the research and development work is our business model, we have to put money in that sector, otherwise it doesn't work. So we want to have a leadership in innovation, so we have to work on that steadily. Otherwise, we have to also to sell some things that the people know, that the business model, that the people likes our products, and they accept this, they accept the price, the quality, and whatever we have. But the time when it's going to be that we are making revenues and making wins out of this business model costs a lot of time. You can grow organically, so maybe that works in 50 years then, or in 30 or whatever, but it's not our thing. So we have a certain time period where we can place ourselves on the market, and therefore we need money, of course. Not so many money as some of the startups, but we need money. And the funding is that we have now passed the seed phase. We made a crowdfunding, was really successful. They just had 30 days of time or 60 days, and after 2 weeks we made it. So it was really successful. And even this story on TV with this Höhle der Löwen called in Germany. So the lions. What do you say? The lions.
I think it translates to the Lion's Den.
Yeah, the Lion's Den. So they contacted us 2 years before we went to them. They started to contact us, and we said, "Oh no, it's not our business. So we have a serious business, and this is kind of TV format. So, and and it was not for me that it's going to be good when we go on the stage and tell our story." Because we knew all these guys sitting in the jury, and they're not really into our business. They are other things than so we say. But after they contacted us 2 times, the third time we said, okay, our marketing chef said, guys, in 2 days we have a date with the Lions in the Lion's Den in Cologne, in Germany, and we have to pack our suitcases. And we say, hey, no, it's not going to be like this. He said, yes, it's really the unique chance to present our story on the stage. It doesn't matter at the end it's going to be then if we have a deal or not. That was not the main intention. The main intention was, can we tell the story to the people, this really complex story of all these little details to people, and they understand in 5 minutes what we want to do, and if they appreciate that or if they say, we don't believe in that. So it was a little really. So we packed our luggage and went to Cologne. Said it's just 5 hours. It's not this thing, but we were not really well prepared, and we had no time. We was really in a hurry. We have a lot of other things to do, but our marketing chef said, yes, we have to go there. So please wear a white shirt and make a good performance. And we did it. So we went to this stage and presented our story, and it was like such a success because everyone understands the story and everyone appreciated that. Not these industrial business to business guys, just the normal people. And we said, okay, this is kind of thing. Afterwards, we get thousands of messages and any channels, and they really said, hey, how can I help you? How can I support you? I really appreciate everything. You're wonderful. Whatever we did, and it was just about one which said, okay, this idea is ridiculous, and just one of thousands. So it's a good quote. And then it was also proof for us that we found the right way to put this complex system into 5 minutes presentation on stage. And then we said, okay, this is a proof that we can tell the story, and we know how to tell the story and what the people. It's not just a thing about the minds; it's also about the heart, because it's belonging to the next generations what we have to tell. And the line. What is? And I just forgot this thing, but this presentation on stage was a kind of signal for us to go on, and was a motivation for us to go on. And then we started this crowdfunding, and we got some really good partners, which helps us also to make this business. And they put their money and their heart into this project. Some of them are also working with us, so it's a kind of really big family we created all around that. And now we are preparing the next step to scale up in different countries. So first thing, we installed active sales. Last 5 years, we did not have any sales. So the people came to us. We never came to the people. So now we started it. Last year, we started to initiate that in the region of Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. So this is one of the areas we have. And also Italy. Also the French market is really interesting. So now we take the markets, and we need money for that. The guy who makes sales need a car. So, and I just heard one really good thing out of a guy from the United States. He said, no people, no work. So no business. When you have no people, you cannot make business. You have to have people doing the business. So this is what we do right now. We getting the B-level experts into our company. We know a lot of them. They're coming to us. They want to work with us. They find the idea really good. And it's really a success that they're coming to us, these high-level people who wants to change some things and are really experienced, and they know what they do. And we have to pay them, of course. And this is what we prepare right now. We prepare, I think it's called the Series A financial round. So it's a little bit bigger. We tell the story in another way. We have new financial plans for that little bit bigger idea. And then it's going to be that on the sales side, so on the scalable side, on the production network side, and also on the science and material side, that we want to build up some really new things. Not new, but it's a little bit other than you know it from the old economy, because packaging, flexible packaging, is an old economy. It's like this. So the people talk to each other, they go into the fairs, and it's not digitalized anyway. So we know all these things after 5 years, and want to present the people that they support us as a good business model, which makes the next 5 years safe. So and therefore we need also money. And so this is the status right now. We prepare the Series A financial round, and we have really good partners on our side that are really interested. So I'm really looking forward to work with them, because they know, and it's they are convinced that it's a good idea. I there's no need to talk to them anymore. They know that. They know the story. They feel the story because they know that they're responsible for the next generations. And they're responsible for their children and for their grandchildren, whatever they have. And when they feel it like this, and it's mostly when the people have family, then it's nothing to talk anymore. So they say, put the money on the table. They trust us. We have for good. So my wife and my colleague Katja has a really good thing. She made a really good work. She did not study this financial and economics, but last 5 years she made it. She developed herself and improved herself like hell. So she's really good also to making the forecasts, what we can expect from the market, the numbers and all the things we need. So, and this is really, really exciting for us because it's the next really big step. But at the end, you're right. It's a matter of time also, and also a matter of putting money in the good ideas and not in the bad ideas. So ideas that make sense and not the ideas who makes the life more comfortable. So that's not this thing. But this is the situation right now, just about talking and telling you about our presence on the stages and TV, and we also won a lot of prizes and whatever, but just to prove ourselves and improve ourselves on the stage with 500 people in the room, how can I perform the story and tell them to the people in 5 minutes? And they got it. And this is what we did and what we trained also ourselves to do so.
Super.
So now we're now talking for 2 hours. So I'm sorry, a lot of things to tell.
Lots of, and I'm holding on to a lot of questions because of want of time. But I'm taking it towards the closure, and I definitely appreciate you taking the time and explaining in so much detail about things that you're doing. It helps me a lot. It helps the audience a lot to hear more about it from your perspective, because a lot of the audience are youngsters, startups, people who are trying to do things, people who are trying to change the world, like yourself. So my second to the last question is about scale. You've talked a lot across the across the conversation about your clarity that you want to be able to scale, and that seems to be a clarity that has been there from the beginning when you started this business, that in order to be able to impact, there has to be significant amount of ammunition that we gather in order to be able to service what we are trying to do. So how do you see your company scaling in the next, say, maybe you can take any window, maybe 5 years, 10 years, something like that, in terms of size? And if you already have numbers in place that, well, this many million euros or this many million tons or 1,000 tons, what is it that you see? What is your dream that, this is the kind of scale I want to see, and hence, of course, there's going to be that much impact?
Yes, thanks, Ved. So this is really a good question. The scale and also the markets were opened by 3 factors. That is the authority and the law. That is the market readiness and the culture of the people themselves. If they have a good relation to the food, I would say, if they're able to spend money for good food and for good products. And also, if the market has the infrastructure to go there, regarding also the taxes and the waste management, all these little things, so we can detect. So this is then also a reason for us to go on to the market, so land by country, I would say. But the scale is not about just to enter country per country. So the next scale is also, as I said, we just have we have a lot of food products that we did not even mention. So a lot of things that we can pack in the future because we improve ourselves. And when it's not tea, it's already done. Tea is already done. So a lot of things has to be packed with flexible packaging. And maybe if we do not talk about food, we just talk about also other products. All these little things we can buy. The first scale is in the products itself. we are now able also to make t-shirts bags, but anyone else can make it too, but we are able to do that. So when we have the proof of concept, we can even spread our product range. This is the first thing. The second thing, as I mentioned, is the market itself. It's the country and the requirements and also the needs of the country. And the third thing is that we have a kind of infrastructure, which, and also readiness with this infrastructure, means when we want to act locally, we have to have the machines there also. We cannot export empty packaging to India. That's not the right way. So we have to have an infrastructure there. But as I told you, we're using the same machines. So in every country we have another infrastructure, but they make everything the same. So, and they are all over the world. They are there. We just have to go there to put this on the table and say, okay, this production line, we want to buy a certain time of your production for our products. We know how to do that. We know what to do. We have the certifications and the knowledge, and you have the machines. So on that, it's going to be work all over the world. It doesn't matter in which part of the world you are. Maybe not in Alaska, but anyway, in every part of the where the people live, we can do that. So the scale is not really the problem. The problem is also to enter a country and the market. You have to be familiar, and you spend a lot of time to find the needs of the market. So you have to spend money before you get the revenue, and this costs you maybe a year, maybe also 2 years to put your step to foot on the market and to be successful there. So I think the scalability of the thing is also that we know that when we put all these market volumes together, I just read a study from the United States. I think it's 200 billion euro per year, the global market for flexible packaging. So, and we made a revenue of the last year of 2 million euro. So this is a really gap. Yeah, but it's the market. It has the volume. So we produce about 450 million tons of plastic globally every year. Not so, and it's getting more and more and more and more. Since 50 years, it grows steadily. So when we have the vision to replace it piece by piece, market by market, product by product, we have a lot of things to do, and that makes the scale. And anyway, it's sounds a little bit funny, but when we can replace 400 million tons of packaging, we reached our target into good. That is the scalability of our business.
Oh, absolutely.
in an easy way.
I do think that you have to think big because the size of the challenge is large. And I think you're doing it in the right way, looking at it piece by piece and looking at it country by country and area by area, looking at forming partnerships with different converters. And many of these converters may be already using plastic on their machines. So all they have to do is switch the product and use a different substrate. So I think the business model sounds fascinating because you're not changing, you're using the same supply chain and you're just switching substrates. And the key is the challenge, I'm sure, and this is a challenge you must be thinking about. The challenge would be on the supply side. Can you gather enough material if you get enough customers? Because again, when I look at your customer list on your website, it's pretty good customers, and they're not small customers. They are niche, but they are also a decent size. So clearly you are making traction with that. And I'm hoping that, for everything we do at our end is all about leaving the earth cleaner like yourself. So even from my standpoint, I just hope that slowly you're also going to be able to get the bigger, the Nestle's and the Unilevers and the Marses, because, that's where the global reach is. And I'm hoping that, maybe they will understand this concept of using different converters at different places, more localized, and be able to switch their packaging. And they do it anyways. They do use local converters. It's just that their scales are probably hundreds of thousands or something like that. I was talking to Unilever. In fact, we were working on their small shampoo sachet in India, and they said they need 16,000 tons of material just for the shampoo sachet, which is like that big, right? but that's Unilever, so that's the key, and I'm sure you're tackling it. But I wish you nothing but the best in order to be able to make this change. And of course, that takes me to my last question, which is a question we ask every guest, and it's always fascinating to hear your point of view. What does good garbage mean to you, and how do you see or perceive good garbage? In whatever way you think about it.
Yes, I just make up my mind about what the title of this thing is. And good garbage is a really good thing. So that makes also this cradle to cradle principle clear. That is not waste, and it's good. It has good properties. Doesn't matter what. So for us, we see that we have to make sure that we as a species on this earth cannot produce waste. This is not. This is. It's an invention by the human beings, and not by any other creature of this world. So in our thing, we have to turn this thinking of producing waste into producing nutrients or valuable materials, whatever it makes. In our case, it's I feed the microorganisms with sugar and starch and oil and everything they really like. This is the only thing I have, and I have to know what I can do there. Then I feed the microorganisms, and with the loss of the packaging, I create millions of new organisms because they digest it and they grew for that and they use it as a nutrient. So this is the thing. And afterwards, you have after composting the things, you have a valuable material which has a really total value for all the agricultural, all the soil we have. It's a problem of the world that we do not have any carbon content anymore in the soil. That is really, and we try to make it with synthetic fertilizers, and that does not work. At the end, we have the same problem with the oil and the gas and the coal. It has to be substituted by these natural fertilizers. And our packaging, and the structure of our packaging, the polymers, and the whole thing is food for the soil. And this is what we think about good garbage. That makes good garbage. It does not cause us any problems or any sustainable problems that we have in 2 or 3 generations. You have to create values, and this is what we do. At the end, you can have the choice to selling natural compost as a fertilizer to the people, or you have a big thing of burned stuff which you have to put it in some landfills. You have the choice of this or this. And good garbage for us, it's clear, it's the way we go. So this is the understanding of good garbage. Thanks, Ved. That was a really nice question.
Super, Sven. Thank you so much for all your ideas, your intelligence, for sharing so profoundly about, what you're doing. I couldn't agree more with you as far as your definition of good garbage goes, because in the end, it's all about putting nutrients into the soil and do as nature does. And of course, you're totally right about creating a market for compost and making sure the soil is enhanced in order to be able to keep producing the agri sort of products that we produce. So once again, thank you, Sven, for sharing all your ideas. This was a fascinating conversation. I wish you nothing but the best as you guys go and change the world. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for taking the time for being with us.
That the same to you. So it was a pleasure for me to talk about all the things. I know that we can discuss for hours and for days. This is really a huge topic. So, but I hope that it was a little bit clear how that works and how we see the world and how we can improve a little bit better and make it better. So not creating waste anymore, people. So this is also the last sentence I would say. Please do not create any waste anymore. So it makes really problems, and your children and the whole generations afterwards, they have really a bigger problem than we have. So we just put it on the landfills, but they have the problem. So please stop grabbing oil out of the oils and burning it. So make it better.